One.
Welcome to A Novel Talk. This episode's guest and her featured works will prove that heartfelt stories break the boundaries of a holiday season. I'm Wendy Kendall, cozy mystery author. Now available, my brand new romance, Heart of Christmas Cookies and Dreams. Liz buried her hopes 3 years ago when she buried her husband. Her dream to run her own bakery shelved, along with dreams of love. She hides behind a corporate desk, struggling for time with her young son and his grandmother, Violet. George is chef at the assisted living facility where Violet recovers from an accident. His adopted beagle, Phil, is George's only family and a therapy dog for the residents. Violet plays matchmaker, plotting a cookie bake at the facility kitchen. Her plans put George's job at risk. Then tailwagger Phil suddenly disappears. How can they all discover the heart of Christmas and find the ribbons of love that run through it? And the delicious cookie recipe is included. I'm so excited for you to read this sweet romance story. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all online retailers, as are all my books, including Cat Out of the Bag, Mystery. Cat is Catherine Watson, purse designer and amateur sleuth. Find out more on my website, wendywritesbooks.com. And here's your co-host.
Hi, thanks, Wendy. My name is Carl Lee, and I write paranormal fantasy. My current work in progress is a witch detective series, book one of the series, where Brenda McCoy has to overcome her uh, doubts and distrust of people and her own powers to help solve a mystery involving uh, with the weather and power vandalism.
That brings us to our guest today. She's Vicki Batman, and her stories are full of fun, romance, possibilities, and they delight all readers. Along the way, she's picked up awards, and her books are bestsellers. She's sold many romantic comedy works to magazines, several publishers, and most recently published 3 humorous romantic mysteries. Avid jazzerciser, handbag lover, mahjong player, yoga practitioner, movie fan, book devourer, chocoholic, wife, and mother. Today, we're focusing on Vicki's delightful short stories about Somerville. Welcome a fellow purse lover to A Novel Talk with Vicki Batman. Hi, Vicki.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be with you today. Thanks, Carl and Wendy, for hosting me. I do love my handbags. Hanson gave me a really great one for Christmas.
Was it Santa? I feel a little outnumbered with all these purse people around me. I loved the vignettes in your Somerville holiday stories. In the first vignette, the town of Somerville plays is such a charming backdrop to really all three of the stories. Where is Somerville, or at least in your mind, where is Somerville?
Well, I've set all of my books and short stories in the town of Somerville. There's lots of romance and mystery going on. And Somerville is loosely based on the part of town I have lived in for a long time. It's next to a lake, has bike and hike trails, trendy restaurants, donut shops. It's like a small city in a big city. I don't have to go far to find what I want or need.
Small city and big city. I know that concept. I love it. In the first vignette, Michelle has a significant issue with plumbing. How did you decide that plumbing would be her nemesis?
Well, that's kind of funny. I've had some of the same plumbing issues Michelle has had.
Hmm.
And I remember dropping my contact and watching it swirl down the drain and panicking. I cut the water fast, called my apartment's superintendent to send the handyman. And minutes later, the contact was in my hand. And one time, Handsome and I hosted a wedding reception at our house. It's an old house. It was built in 1928. But the next morning, I got up and went down to the basement and discovered the plumbing had backed up. Ick, ick,
Yeah,
ick.
I hate plumbing problems. In The Littlest Angel, by the way, such a cute image of that angel. Laura and Mr. Detestable are thrown together by fate and their mutual friend Alex. Tell us a little something about their troubled relationship.
Well, Lauren and Mr. Detestable want the same thing, an angel tree topper. Lauren spies it first. However, Mr. Detestable swoops in and claims it. Their friend Alexandra senses something more is going on and throws them together until, well, that's the story.
No spoilers.
No
Uh,
spoilers.
Lauren is clearly fond of Christmas, the decorations, the traditions, the joy. Do you have a favorite Christmas tradition?
I have several. I have to drive around with Handsome and look at the Christmas lights.
Hmm.
Have to watch The Grinch, Charlie Brown, Rudolph, and White Christmas and sing all the songs. I have to have a live tree.
Yeah. Mine is It's a Wonderful Life. I have to see that every year. It's not Christmas until I do. Speaking of handbags, as we did earlier, in holiday handbag extravaganza, the local boutique owner scours the country to locate a specific purse for a customer um, who she has who she had a crush on in high school. What can you tell us about the relationship then and now between Cassie, Jack, and Jill? Oh, I'm sorry. I mean Jill IN.
Oh boy. Cassie runs an antique shop and Jack stops in. He was looking for a specific handbag, one Cassie recently sold. Jill E. Un is Jack's obnoxious sister who wants the same bag and insists on squashing Cassie and Jack's budding friendship. I've never written anyone as obnoxious as Jill E. Un. It was tons of fun, and especially like saying Jill E. Un. Well, it had me in stitches. It's
It's not
interesting.
the same name, but I know a Jilly Un.
It's interesting to look at people from childhood and how they have evolved into adulthood.
Hmm.
So great. I just love all of your characters. This for all different reasons. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Um, the first of the three short stories in Somerville Holidays 2 is The Great Fruitcake Bake Off. And in full disclosure, I must let you all know I am one of the minority who love fruitcake. Love. Samantha Green lives in an awesome apartment complex where they have an annual holiday bake-off. So, multi-year winner. This time, Samantha collaborates with new resident and hunk Dixon Roberts. There's so much delightful humor dialogue between these two, even when things go sideways at the bake-off. Can you talk a little about the chemistry between these two characters?
Well, Sam likes baking fruitcake, and I went back looking for inspiration for a new story and said, I'm going to write a story about fruitcake. based, based on my grandmother had a fruitcake recipe called tomato cake. And I just wanted to include that in a story. So Sam likes baking this fruitcake, but she is in a little bit of a dilemma trying to figure out what could be new. You don't want to repeat yourself every year. And then her best friend wrangles the new guy that lives in the apartments into baking with her. But then things go wrong. Bad guys step in. They're trying to ruin Samantha's chances at winning. And then, well, there's a happy ending at the end and a winner.
Love a happy ending. All right. So in both stories, the Fruit Cake Bake Off and Christmas Romeo, the female protagonist has a best girlfriend who is a fun personality and also a mischievous instigator. With only the best of intentions, can you talk a little bit about Samantha's friend Bethany and then also Julianne's friend Melanie? And also a word about the importance to a story of a protagonist sidekick.
Well, you have to have someone else, and they're very good. When you have a sidekick, they're very good about helping more humor, which I like to inject into my stories. I like to write funny in my stories, and having the sidekick helps the heroine become funnier and put them in awkward situations and even push them into doing things they may not want to do. So they almost also act like the protagonist's conscious. Going back, why don't you want to be in the Great Fruitcake Bake Off this year? Well, she's pushing her into doing it and also pushing her into a new adventure. We have friends like that in our lives, or at least I do. And I guess this is my way of sticking them in a story.
I have friends like that.
Makes life interesting.
Yes, she does.
Is there anything in particular you want to tell us about Samantha's friend Bethany?
Well, like I said, Bethany is the one that pushes her into doing something she may not want to do. And she's calling out the BS basically. And
Yes, yes.
and that's sometimes what we need in our lives. So, like I said, she's probably her conscious or someone who challenges her. And we all have those kind of friends. And like I said, I have friends that push me to do things. I have a very good friend that pushed me into writing. So if it hadn't been for her, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Okay, then I'm going to give her a thank you, an anonymous thank you. Yes, thank you for pushing you into writing. Enjoy your stories.
Thank you.
Now, in Christmas Romeo, two fortunate employees at Green Financial Services, where Julianne works, will win an amazing cruise. And I loved reading about the incredible settings in this story. Can you tell us what inspired the idea of the cruise in your story?
Well, Handsome and I do love to cruise. We like going nice places, unpacking once, getting great food, and people taking us around and telling us nice things. It's just all nice. And one of those cruises was a trip down the Rhine River. Well, several of the river cruises are known for their Christmas markets. And since I like to write Christmas stories, I had to set the Rhine River at Christmas time. And fortunately, I have a couple of friends that have done the Christmas cruise. But there's also the internet, and it helped me get great descriptions about what happens in these towns that the cruise ships stop at.
Listeners, I'm just telling you, you will really enjoy that part of the story as well. Just the descriptions of the settings is just, I love that. A real added benefit with this particular story.
Thank you.
There's also just a wonderful twist in Christmas Romeo. I loved it. Can you tell us a little about your character, Romeo Richard Stokes?
I felt kind of weird naming him Romeo, so I made it the nickname. And of course, her name is Julianne, Julia.
Close. Yep.
So it's pretty close.
Yep.
He's not what Julian and her friend think he is. They always see him as a hot mess and he looks like a womanizer. But when they win these trips on the cruise, they really begin to discover each other reluctantly at first, and then more and more. And then, of course, like all stories, something happens, and then things come together for happy ever after.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. I just love the way it all unfolds.
Thank you.
Now, your story, Twinkle Lights, it asks the important question, can a person who has a shady past successfully reform? Can you tell us a little about this theme in Twinkle Lights?
Well, some people have done things in the past that need forgetting. In Twinkle Lights, our hero has to go to great lengths to gain our heroine's confidence because of his bad behavior in high school. I'm a pantser, and honestly, this reformation just popped up on the page. But to do this, I had to do it right. I had to have the hero redeem himself, which he does by helping people in the community, and thus he wins her trust and confidence.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm also a pantser, so I totally get how
Thank-
magic happens between the fingertips and the screen.
Yes,
Um, speaking
absolutely.
speaking of magic, you have had so many magic moments in these stories. Would you be willing to treat our readers to a reading?
Sure.
Thank
Here's a little bit from the Great Fruitcake Bake Off. I'm not entering this year. I pinned an unbreakable stare on Bethany, my coworker and longtime friend, who lived in the same apartment complex as me. We arrived early for work and piddled over coffee in her cubicle like we always did before diving into the nuts and bolts of company business. Standing firm, I crossed my arms, period. Bethany rolled her eyes in the so I'm not believing this fashion and tweaked the Santa garland decorating her cube's walls. Why not, Samantha? You should be proud to be the 5-time winner of the Great Fruitcake Bake Off. You're, uh, her words trailed off as she searched the ceiling for the ultimate indescriptive legend. I twitched my black skirt in place and then I tucked my shoulder length hair behind my ear. I let loose a long exhale. Is being a legend in the fruitcake world a good thing? What's your point? Bethany asked. All right, already. It's exhausting. Finding the perfect recipe, then bake and exhibit it. The tension comes close to killing my holiday enjoyment. Besides, I shoved my finger in her direction. Shouldn't the love be spread around? Shouldn't somebody else win the bake off? Oh, by golly, Sam. Bethany covered her eyes. A few seconds passed. Then she clasped her hands to her chest, inhaled, and composed her annoyance before saying, we're talking fruitcake here. It's not groundbreaking like the Declaration of Independence or the pyramids. I set my palm to my breastbone. I'm shocked to hear you, my very best confidant since dance school days, belittle fruitcake. It's the cake of all time, dating to, I know. Bethany's chin slumped to her chest, to the 16th century. I raised my finger. It gets a bad rap, she sighed. A soul searching blow of breath, which told the world, I've heard this argument before. You always say that. You always say you love participating, yet you're not defending your title this year. Why? I tossed my hands skyward, sending a plea to the universe to bring forth an answer. None there. I've used all of Grammy's recipes. I don't know where to find a new one. Couldn't you start over with the first confection you entered 5 years ago? I suppose I could, but in a weird way, it seems like cheating, and I don't cheat. You're a shining example of excellent values. You want to hear some more?
Yes, please.
Yes.
about a little bit from Christmas Romeo?
Yeah, yay.
I shifted my gaze to the conference room doorway where our office Romeo, aka Richard Stokes, stood. A carefree grin shaped his mouth, one which accompanied his breezy walk as he acknowledged our coworkers. He passed with a cheerful "Good morning." Romeo infuriated me every time I saw him, every single time. Well, 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 look who's here. With a nod in his direction, I snorted a hump. Oh, him. Finally, Romeo graces us with his presence. Crossing her arms over her chest, Melanie, my cube mate, dropped her chin and nearly spat with disgust. Could anyone look any more repulsive? He doesn't appear one bit fazed by his appearance, Julian. His clothes are always rumpled. And does he ever comb his hair? I know rules are different about employee dress in today's work environment, but I don't like his style. He looks like a teenager. I slam my fist into my palm. Professionalism, damn it. Despite your teenager rant, I agree. He seems to be taking the walk of shame. She rubbed the sleeve of her pink cashmere sweater. Yeah, the saunter, the rumpled clothes, the tossed hair. I cupped my hand around my mouth and said without moving my lips, wonder what she looks like. I've got one more for you.
We have time.
Oh, good.
Uh-oh.
This one's from Twinkle Lights. I don't believe it. Hands on hips, I stood in front of the large white plastic tent. No happy shoppers bustled in and out. No, all I want for Christmas is you blasting from a boombox. No holiday cheer at all. Instead, I found under the same old Axel's Christmas trees neon sign, which wasn't flashing, a notice, which looked to be hastily printed and stuck on the tent flap with gray duct tape. Closed. Heart attack. Pray. Axel's son. I shook my head, saying to the nippy wind whipping my hair, poor Axel, this is horrible. Where will the funds for the Somerville Hospital come from? I sensed my stomach kink into a hard knot as I hugged my tote to my waist. I always bought my Christmas tree at Axel's since forever. Definitely since I was a blossoming idea in my parents' mind. Every year on the first Saturday in December, Mom and Dad brought my brother and me to Axel's for the family tree. Who could forget the ensuing arguments over the perfect one? Mom usually won, and the joy of trimming it over hot chocolate and homemade cookies. All grown up, I continued the tradition. Axel's business carried the most beautiful trees. The proceeds benefited the hospital. This year, the Children's Cancer Wing, where his grandson underwent treatment for leukemia. He always stashed aside a 7-foot Fraser fir for me. Nothing spelled Christmas than a fresh North Carolina Fraser fir. Now what do I do? Where do I go? Should I call Axel's son and see if he needs anything? I stared into the blue-black December sky. A blast of cold air chilled my arms. Unprepared for the rapidly declining temperatures, shivers skittered across my body. I stuck my hands under my armpits for warmth. Do I even want to go somewhere else? There were limited options. Or should I take the plunge like the rest of America and get a fake tree? Ick. The very suggestion of an artificial tree sent pea-green queasies rolling in my stomach. Simply said, they weren't nature-made, nor did they have the mind-blowing scent. Who'd choose phony? Not me. Never, ever. Returning to the flap, I lifted my hair off my neck and shook it out while considering what next for the bazillionth time. Unexpectedly, a light bump grazed my bicep. A glance to my right told me a dark-haired man, close to my age, stooped alongside me to read the sign. I tilted away, brushing the spot where he touched me. The man straightened to an attractive, towering height and looked at me. What happened? All is what's written there. I shrugged and gestured to the note. Looks like Axel had a very serious heart attack. How awful. I nodded. I'm sick about it. His gaze flipped to the sign and then to me. I get my trees here every year. Me too. They're the best. I think so. What's inside? I don't know. I bet Axel's already set up the trees. Want to take a peek? I gave him my best questioning minds want to know look. Isn't that breaking and entering? A little B&E in a tent? Possibly. He flashed a good-looking pearly grin. He untied a couple of straps and lifted the tent door flap, waiting for me to precede him. Come on, live dangerously.
Oh, wow. Those were great. Thank you for the reading.
Thank
And thank you
you.
for joining us today.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you so much, Vicki. You and I have a love of purses in common and mystery novels.
You
Can,
do.
can you give us a word about your Hattie Cooks mysteries and also what's next for your readers?
The Hattie Cooks mysteries feature Hattie Cooks, a young woman who's lost her beloved job, and to make ends meet, she takes temporary ones. But all kinds of bad things happen at those places of employment. There's temporarily employed, temporarily insane, and temporarily out of luck. So, what's coming? Well, I'm writing Temporarily Fooled. I have a short story called Kissing School that's ready to publish. I'm just waiting for the right place to put it. And I'm working on 2 other short stories. As you can guess, I do like my short stories.
So do we.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Well, that's just fabulous. Thank you again. And listeners, you will want to check out the website, vickibatman.blogspot.com, for more information about the author and her works. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, a novel read leads to a novel talk.